What's up, and welcome to another edition of the Cover 2 Recap. I'm BruinsSportsReport.com publisher Edward Lewis. As always, this is Ryan Karchi, the UCLA beat writer for the OC Register. We're here tonight in Berkeley, California, where UCLA just beat Cal 36-34 in a game, Ryan, that really could have gone either way. If UCLA doesn't have 3 turnovers and then 1 more turnovers on downs, this could have been a 28-point blowout. And if Marcus Rios doesn't intercept a pass to end the game, this could have been a loss. So, Ryan, I mean, where do you go from here with this game? What was your takeaway from it all?
You know, I struggle. I've been thinking about it since the game ended, whether this is a game they lost or a game they won there at the end. And I think it's a game that they definitely should have won. I mean, they almost threw it away with turnovers. I mean, this is 6 turnovers in 3 weeks, 3 today. They only forced that Rios interception was the first turnover they forced in that same span. So turnovers have really been swinging the opposite direction today. And today, like you said, it almost, really screwed them in the end. But luckily, they had an offensive performance that was pretty solid. I mean, all around, other than the turnovers. Brett Hundley had, 330 yards, 2 touchdowns. Paul Perkins had 161 yards and 2 all-purpose yards and 2 touchdowns before leaving with a wrist injury in the third quarter. He could have been even better. So the offense looked good. As always, we kind of look at this offense and think, wow, they should be really good. But, in this circumstance, they obviously got pretty lucky escaping here with a win. And
the defense looked pretty good, too, given the fact that they were always playing, basically on their own 20-yard line, their own 36-yard line, their own 40-yard line. But my takeaway from this is when does this stop happening? I mean, other than the Oregon game last week, I feel like we've been saying this every single week. Well, they could have done a lot better if they did this, and they could have been a lot better if only these things hadn't happened. Well, I mean, at what point is this team? They seem to be always making mistakes and always doing just enough to win, but at the same time, looking bad enough that they'll lose games like to Oregon or other ranked opponents down the road. So,
and well, if you believe Jim Mora, his response to that would be that they needed to build a foundation. They needed a win like this to get themselves out of the kind of doldrums they'd fallen into in the past 2 weeks. But like you said, I'm not sure so much you can believe that. You can look at it and see one thing and look at it and see another, just as you can look at the game and think, oh, they almost lost that, or they should have won all along.
Yeah, we've been saying that every week, man. This is going to be the foundation. Jim Moore says it every week. This is the foundation. This is games you need to win, the Texas game, all those games. So anyways, but there were a couple positives we want to get into about, what we saw today and what, going forward for UCLA, what it means for them. Tell me some of the stuff that, as Moore mentioned, the foundation for the future here.
Well, I was impressed by the offensive line, and especially Connor McDermott, who came into the game having only had 22 reps at offensive line in his career. Not even just college career, high school, middle school, anything, which is pretty amazing given how well he played. I thought he was easily the best left tackle that UCLA has had, this season, fall, spring, whatever. He looked like a natural out there, and you could tell that when they shifted Malcolm Bunch into left guard, the things changed a little bit. I didn't think Bunch had as great of a game as some people said at guard, but he looked much better. He looked much more suited for that role than he did for left tackle. And they made it pretty clear after the game. We talked to Adrian Clem. He said the plan is to keep McDermott there for the rest of the season. He will be the starting left tackle. But at the same time, he's a guy who has had shoulder issues in the past. So you might see a lot of changes still to come. I mean, Alex Redmond is likely to come back this week. Simon Goins dressed for the first time since last November. And there's always a chance that he could play in. But now you're almost looking at the UCLA offensive line and thinking, well, that's a good problem to have compared to a few weeks ago when it looked like the most glaring issue on this team with no solution in sight. So I was impressed with what we saw from the line.
The other thing that I think you take away from this is Takaris McKinley. I mean, Tack was they've struggled with Deion Hollins at that defensive end spot, particularly against the run and zone read options and everything. And I mean, obviously the last 2 weeks against Utah and Oregon. But now Tack showed today that he can not only be a good pass rusher, but man, he can maybe play that run. And maybe in the future, if Deion is still struggling like he did against Mariota and against Kendall Thompson against Utah, maybe you put in Tack there and he has a better success rate, against the read option stuff. So
the one thing that would make me think that Moore is right when they say they built the foundation is you finally saw both sides of the ball make some changes. I mean, they tried different things. Like you said, McKinley, Odigizua moved into the inside as a 3-tech spot and replaced Eddie Vanderdossel quite a bit. He actually didn't play as much as in any game I think he's played this season. But, the offensive line changes. Everything seemed to change a little bit. And I guess if you're looking for something optimistic out of a game that was as ugly as this was, that would be it, that they're finally trying new things.
Now, going forward, give me the big picture look on this game. What did you see today that you'll take going forward as we progress down the stretch here?
And see, that's the thing. I'm not sure we learned anything new. I mean, I think we saw a few glimpses of things that could be better in the future, but it's so hard to know whether those things will pan out. I mean, the offensive line looked better, but this is a Cal defensive front that's not very good. The defensive front looked better getting the passer, but this is a Cal offensive line that's not very good. So, a lot of these things can change, and I don't know that we learned that much other than reinforce what we already knew, that maybe this team isn't as good as people had once thought, and they're going to have to prove it in these next few weeks. Obviously, kind of a walkover in Colorado next week, but after that, Arizona, Washington, Stanford, USC. We're talking about games they could lose every single one of them. So at this point, I'm not sure we learned much, but I think if you want to take positives from this game, there are definitely some to take.
Yeah, it certainly has a feel of an 8-4 team right now. But that'll wrap up our coverage from UCLA here in Berkeley. As always, you can follow Ryan's coverage of UCLA on Twitter at Ryan_Karchi. You can follow me on Twitter at EdwardLewisBSR. Until the next time, thanks for tuning in to the Cover 2 Recap.